That is very understandable because I was here yesterday and President he was speaking from 9 to 4 all way long, and today the same. We have this opportunity to meet and to talk with him. So first, I will introduce some of our guests. Li Jianfeng. Yes, thank you. Yeah, because especially he come from Wingpur for this event. He's a former Chinese judge and sentenced to 16 years in prison for subversion of the state power. 他原来在国内是一个法官，后来是因为颠覆中国这个国家政权罪判处了16年徒刑。Ed Chen。If you are here already, no. 钱志健，他是一个资深媒体人，香港社会活动家、金融专家，senior media person, but he's not here yet. 殷洪善，民政加拿大前主席，是 former president of TADC Canada. And Joseph 石青。他是 former political prisoner in China, and now he's deputy mayor of Cremona of Alberta. 他是中国前政治犯，现在是阿尔伯塔省的叫克里孟纳镇的副镇长。Hugh 于厚强先生，他是 Executive Director of the China Democracy Party of Canada Committee， 是中国民主党全委会加拿大委员会的执行主席。Taoshi Manov and her husband, she is here. I see you. Toshi, Japanese writer and researcher, and also her husband is a scholar, and with their friend John with us today. And with Winston, 温韦斯特，你的英文名字是怎么拼？Winston. He's on behalf of the Assembly of Citizens, 叫公民会，全是年轻人。All young guys, young people. Michael Stanton, he's the president of Canadian Taiwanese Human Rights Association, 加拿大台湾人权会主席。虽然他是一个白人老头。Tuyghun Abduweli, president of East Turkistan Association of Canada, 加拿大东土耳其斯坦协会主席。Winnie Ng 吴温温， the president of Toronto Association for Democracy in China, 多伦多民运会主席。Columbus Law 罗义士， on behalf of the World United Pharmacists for Independence Canada, 叫台湾独立建国联盟。Edward Chung, yes, thank you. President of FAPA Canada, 加拿大台湾人公共事务会主席。Thank you. Joseph Attar. The last one is not the list. He is a political prisoner of religious freedom and spent 15 years in an Egyptian's prison. 他是因为坚持他的这个基督教信仰，是在埃及被关了15年监狱。Thank you.
Thank you, Sheng Xue. My name is Gyaltsang Phuntsok. I'm the president of the Canadian Tibetan Association of Ontario, and today we have gathered here with our Chinese friends to have an introduction of the president of the Tibetan Central Tibetan Administration, Mr. Penpa Tsering and the North American representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and he works Mandela. He works from the office in Washington D.C. and covers both U.S., South America, and the Canada also. Without taking much time, I welcome you everyone to the center here, and with the start of this meeting, we look forward to having more interactions with all of you in the future. Thank you.
That's okay. We don't want to waste time. We're already late.
Okay, maybe
next, I would like to ask Sikyong, that's the Tibetan term for the president of the Tibetan Central Administration. Thank you.
I'll speak in Tibetan, then my friend here will translate into Chinese. I think you are the only one who won't understand Chinese, right? Yeah, Anitani, they know Permitting Zoo is young gang candidate logic, manship to your and Kazinja, Germany, and early Canada change that they live Tari, Mazu Giri Togoda, Ugur Togoda, any Tavane Togoche, Egyptian Egyptian Jews, and some of them some district.
在座的各位大家下午好。自从我担任司政以来，最近去欧洲德国的访问，以及在美国华盛顿和纽约的访问，现在到加拿大多伦多西藏文化中心与大家进行见面商讨，祝大家拥有一个非常开诚布公的开放的交流和对话。
아주 미리 첨부 만나게 나는 상으로 김제리 아니 양야디 야나 마쇼네 양에 지고 차대요 그랬어.
虽然我们来自不同的民族和地区，但是我们大家面对着一个共产国家的一个政权的一个迫害，大家面对着这样一个局面。
저는 아직 뭐나 아주 이만 다람살아 영화치에 당 아주 뭐시 이거 도지에 심바 많이지 다른 당고 지리의 소장이 거기다 충수.
Sheng Xue女士呢，我们以前见过面是熟人，她原来访问过达鲁萨拉，最近今天再次在这见面，与大家坐在一起，非常高兴。
저는 홍콩에 열래. Anybody from Hong Kong? Yeah? Yeah, yeah, okay. Hong Kong 내 배시야 이 단계. 아네. So we have a lot of language issue here. So our Uyghur friend, they understand English? Yes. You understand English, no? No problem. So maybe, Chinese is fine. You understand Chinese?
Understand English.
Okay. Now, okay.
So he's just saying all.
Next time, maybe we should meet in a place where we have better translation, section-wise. So anyway, maybe I'll switch to English then. Okay.
Sheng Xue is,
One Japanese also, but Japanese you speak English, no?
oh, there we go.
Yeah, you are author, so you must be writing in English and Japanese and
Sheng Xue is
other
our friend.
language. So I'm very happy to have met all of you. I know her for some time now because she was in Dharamsala before, but many of you we are meeting for the first time. So it's my pleasure, and I really look forward to listen from you also as to what is going on. Of course, we all are different people. Like Uyghur people, East Turkistan people. I don't like to call them Xinjiang people because Xinjiang is Chinese name for the Uyghur people. So it's technically also very important because China try to change everything, signification of everything, including name of place, name of country, name of rivers, everything they change. So we don't want signification of the national minorities. Whether it's Mongolia or whether it's Uyghur people or whether it's the Tibetan people. So all of our issues are different. We are different people, but we face the same opponent, the Communist Party of China. Whether it's with Taiwan also, the same problem. But issues are different. We have different historical narratives, different situation for Hong Kong people. Also, the issue is more freedom and democracy. For Uyghur people and the Tibetan people, it's more to do with the identity of the Tibetan people or the Uyghur people or the Mongol people. So we also have a friend from Egypt who also suffered the same fate like us. So we are all in the same boat, even though we come from different places. So as Uyghurs, our Uyghur friends, we have many friends. I used to work with Rabia Kadir, now also with Tuyghun Isa and others. So Uyghurs used to tell Tibetans that they have body but no head. Tibetans have head but no body. So for that, I think they mean His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So we are very fortunate to have a leader like His Holiness the Dalai Lama who always professes peace and non-violence and harmony in the world, you know. So, and I tell the Hong Kong friends also, I met some friends already in Ottawa, in DC, and also in Washington, in New York. When we came into exile in 1959, we never thought that we would be living in exile for 63 years. Now it's already 63 years. Hong Kong issue came up much later in the last 3-4 years. So I tell the Hong Kong friends also that you are young, you are energetic, you are educated, you know the law, but you need to organize yourself. We have a Tibetan saying. We have a Tibetan saying that hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So we have to prepare for the worst. Even for our Hong Kong friends, you have to prepare for the worst. We hope that you get freedom in Hong Kong as early as possible. But till such a time, you need to organize yourself. For us, because of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, we introduced democracy as early as 1960. So we have a democratic system of functioning, and I am representing the 16th cabinet of democracy in exile. We also have parliament. We also have our judiciary commission. So all 3 pillars of democracy, even in exile. We have our election commission. We have Auditor General's office. We also have public service commission. So all our recruitment is also done through the Public Service Commission, just like any independent country. But of course, there's nobody, not a single country recognize the Tibetan government in exile. But at least we are able to function in a united way. Sometimes there are divisions in democracy also, but then when you have a system in place, when you have a structure in place, then it helps you to carry on your movement for many years to come, and His Holiness also with his long-sighted vision establish democracy, and he knows we treat him like God. He is for us he is emanation of the Lord of compassion, but he is on human form, so he will also die one day. So he wants us Tibetans to be prepared when he is no longer there, for us to continue with our movement. So similarly, our Uyghur friends also for a long time they had no structure, but now they have decided to form a Uyghur government in exile. So they are also having elections. So they also follow what we did many years ago. And I would urge our Hong Kong friends also to work with your friends in different parts of the world, come together, develop a structure. I know that you have a democratic council, Hong Kong Democratic Council, but if we have to work together, it's very difficult with the Chinese dissident democratic movement, dissidents also, father of democracy, New York district, Wei Jishen, he wants to be president, and then he doesn't recognize Yang Jie. He thinks Yang Jie is Chinese spy. So there are so many divisions within the Chinese democracy movement. For us to get in touch with Chinese democracy movement is not possible. So when I went to Australia on June 4th to commemorate the June 4th, one group meet in the morning, they go. Then the next group come in the afternoon, same place, same people, same struggle, but different group. When they told me that they will host a dinner for me. So I told them, if two groups come together, I will come. If separate problem. So they did come together. But overall, with His Holiness also always say, all Chinese democracy movement come together, because we have to face the government of China. We cannot remain divided. And if we are divided and you are fighting for democracy in China, but at least you should have democracy here, also in exile. So we have to learn how to organize ourselves. Only then will there be strength to face the Communist Party. And if we want to, let us say our Uyghur friends, our pro-democracy friends, our Hong Kong friends and Mongol friends, if we want to come together to face, to come together with a common strategy to face the common challenges, for us it's very difficult to, who should we invite from the pro-democracy movement? Now it's easy with Uyghur. We can contact Turghun Isa and he will send people or he will come. For us it's also easy. You contact me, I send to which meeting who should go. So they become representative. But with Hong Kong, I still don't know how organized they are. With the pro-democracy Chinese also, I don't know how organized you are. If I invite her, some other group get angry. If I invite somebody else, then the other group get angry. The problem is not only about Canada. I'm talking about internationally. Internationally, if there are structured organization and a system, and with our Taiwan friends also, we have good relations with Taiwan and transparent relation. Your cultural affairs person in charge in Ottawa, we met. Your Delhi office people, we met in Delhi. So I told our friend in Delhi also, I will never say when I want to come to Taiwan. You decide when I should come. So if you think it's a good time for me to come to Taiwan, I will come. But I don't want to force myself on our Taiwanese friend that I want to come. In fact, the Taiwan Foreign Minister, Joseph Wu, he congratulated me on my election victory. So now, if we all have to come together to face the common enemy, the Communist Party of China, then we have to have some structure. And that is very important. Otherwise, it's not possible to work together. Then please make sure that you do that. All of us, for us, Chinese people are not our enemy. Tibet and China, Tibet and Mongolia, Tibet and Uyghur, We are all neighbors since time immemorial. Not like something China says, Tibet is part of China since time immemorial, but we are friends, neighbors since time immemorial. There's no question about it. And as neighbors, we have to learn to live in peace and in harmony with each other. We cannot be fighting all the time and be neighbors. It doesn't help anybody's peace of mind. Always tension, killing. We saw what is happening in Ukraine. What war brings. So much lives, people killed, so much destruction of property. If all these are used for education, for development of people, how much beneficial will it be for everybody? But unfortunately, you still have countries like Russia, you still have leaders in China who don't believe in democracy, who don't believe in providing, taking care of their own people. So it's very unfortunate, but we as Buddhists, we believe that nothing is permanent. In Western psychology, or Westerners also talk about change is the only constant. So we believe in impermanence. Nobody knows what is going to happen post-Ukraine, what will happen to Russia, how will, in the next few months, what role will the Chinese government play in this evolving situation, how will the international community view China, what are the opportunities for all of us under those circumstances. We should be able to take it, but if we are not united, then we cannot take advantage of the opportunity. So I close with these words, and I'm very thankful for you coming here at the Tibetan Canadian Cultural Center, and I look forward to more cooperation into the future, and we look forward to more peace in the world, not war. Okay? Even Chinese leaders, Mao Zedong, true, now Xi Jinping also a human being. Today he is president, but tomorrow he has to die. Before his death, he will think what he did in his life, whether he helped people or he destroyed people. So all of us are human beings, whether you are a prince or a king or a pauper or a beggar, all same body, same mind. You know, everybody is seeking happiness, so we have to learn to work together. Okay? Thank you so much for your presence here.
Shocked me.
Yeah, you make it short.
OK， 今天实际上他的在欢迎大家以后哈。特别感谢盛学，安排今天的场面呢，让大家在一起见面。在他谈话里面，他强调，达赖喇嘛的领导，他的原件呢，从1960年就开始强调，西藏一定要有一个民主制度，要有民主政府，所以他们现在有一个完整的一个政府，有政府的三个部门呢，还有各个政府应该有的都有虽然他们在西藏以外，但是他们有一个完整的政府，所以他们也是一个民主体制虽然没有任何一个国家正式承认他们做西藏政府，但是他们已经有一个很有制度的组织，所以他建议像维吾尔族现在有很强的领导他经常在 Washington 跟Tuyghun 见面但是他知道在中国民运里面有这个相当的严重的分裂的问题所以很难跟他们沟通到底你要跟谁谈话了，所以他提到在澳洲有一次他们有2个会议，一样都是 一样都是中国民众人士，但是一个早上一个下午，他们不要一起开会。但是他强调，如果要请我吃饭的话，一定要大家在一起，我才来跟你们吃饭。所以他觉得你没有一个统一的政府可以代表大家，你们就错过很多机会。同样的，他不太了解香港的情况，但是一样，他建立香港也需要开始组织起来，做一个香港的一个流亡政府。有代表性，大家公认，这就是香港的领导，这就是代表香港的声音。有关呢台湾，他说我们跟台湾政府有相当那个透明而且很好的关系。他曾经也访问过他们在德里的办公室，跟他们的交谈呢，他们的关系是相当好。他们昨天在渥太华，前天在渥太华，陈代表，台北经济委员会陈代表也参加他们的会议，而且当那个市长呢当选的时候，台湾外交部长那个吴钊燮也是给他祝贺，所以他跟他们说，我不需要自己也一直要求到台湾的时候。你觉得我什么时候到台湾方便，我就可以到台湾。但是你要请我，我不会一直要求你们来请我到台湾。最后他说，作为佛教徒，我们的一个重要的信仰就是无常。他用英文说 ，The only permanent condition is change， 只有改变才是常存在的。所以世界在这种乱象里面，在打仗呢，在俄罗斯、中国这些乱象，我们不知道以后会怎么样的发展。但是如果我们没有很强烈的大家公认的一个组织，我们很难去抓住这些机会。他说我们每一个人，包括那个习近平以外。到他临终的时候，他自己也要想一想，我到底为了人做过什么？我对人做过什么事情？每一个人都是在寻求那个喜乐、快乐、平安所以我们在这个是我们所有的人类的共同点，我们要从这一点来发出，继续做我们的工作。
Thank you, Michael. Next, I would like to request to do a presentation of the different associations that have come here. So first, I will ask Tuyghun Abduweli, the president of East Turkistan Association of Canada, to come here and do a presentation.
Assalamu alaikum. Yaxshimisiz? Men bir davlat qilgan millat bo'lgandan keyin o'zimning tilda bir so'zlay dedim. Shauqa daja will speak English language, but I speak Mandarin Hao. Okay. Good afternoon, as Uyghurs. We warmly welcome President of Tibet Government Exile, Sheng Penpa. It's our honor to be together to talk about our invaded country, East Turkestan and Tibet, by Chinese government. Because Uyghur and Tibet have been facing unbelievable torture under the China CCP even persecution, and no one can understand and imagine or pain like has refused to close the concentration camp in the East Turkestan, so called Xinjiang province, which Uyghurs are persecution people in their own land. Millions of Uyghurs are still in the concentration camp. Gradually, the persecution has gotten worse. We fight China's CCP ongoing. Genocide or make simple calls to all loved ones in our back country, because our communication is all cut off by the Chinese government in this modern day. Treating by I have so many questions in my mind and cannot believe. The world has no eyes that can see the evil. China's CCP, it's time to take action. No one or any life is safe in East Turkestan and Tibet. We understand that unless Uyghurs and Tibet independent, their torture will never end. I also want to say thank you to the Vice President Tibet Youth Organization Sunni and the Chinese Democrat Sheng Xue. Since our organization was established, we worked together with Sunni and Sheng Xue. Sheng Xue 2018, today around 4 years. 4年前我们合作很好，我谢谢您。
Thank you, Abduweli. Next, I'll request Ed Chen, the senior media person of the Hong Kong social activist and a celebrity in the financial industry, to introduce your organization.
Thank you, Sikong, Emma. Well, at first I was thinking of making a PowerPoint presentation of what happened in Hong Kong, because this is what I usually do when I go to any Tibetan conference, either in Taipei or in Brussels. But in any event, I'm a columnist with Abduweli for a long time until the publication was forced to shut down just this past last June. And a lot of people know that Hong Kong actually is pretty much part of China now. Now, I relocated back to Hong Kong from Canada in year 2000, and I was in exile of sorts myself since June of last year, when the English editor of Abduweli was arrested at the airport. And what happened to all the columnists? Now, I'm not the day-to-day activist. I don't go to the streets a lot, but I just write a column. I have a radio show. And then 1 month before the enactment of the national security law in 2020, which is May 2020, I started a YouTube channel called Ed Chin World and also Ed Chin Life. One is in Cantonese, the other is in English. Just because I was thinking that there would be more duress and there would be more restriction of press freedom with the enactment of the NSL. And in less than 24 months, we witnessed the shutdown of Abduweli. The founder, Jimmy Lai, is now in prison, waiting for trial, same as the senior management of Abduweli. Plus, a lot of people who were trying to get a primary, just a primary in Hong Kong. They are detained for almost two years. District councillors, activists, and in 2019 with the democracy movement, more than 10,000 people were arrested in Hong Kong. And now inside the prison system and the detainment system, we have close to 700 people who fight for freedoms are detained right now. Now the Hong Kong prison itself has around 7,000 prisoners, so to speak. Now, I come from a hedge fund background. I'm a trader, but also back in the early 90s, I had a brief stint for 4 or 5 years running radio station in Toronto, a multicultural radio station called CHIN, which right now the airtime is brokered to, I think, St. Tao Daily. But anyways, this is just a little bit of background why I think it is important for Hong Kongers and especially Tibetans, which I get involved when I had the opportunity to meet up with the Holy List, the Dalai Lama in Australia, I think in 2015, and also in Brussels. And I met the former Sikong Lobsang a few times, talk about what happened in Hong Kong and then the dismantling of Hong Kong over the last few years. So I guess the top priority for us as Hong Kongers now is how can we let the CCP and also like the Hong Kong government, which they just had an election, just a one-person election, just a few hours ago. The person elected is called John Lee, a hardliner with so-called police background. How can we let I would use the word like almost like POW, prisoners of war, to let Jimmy Lai, Joshua Wong, Professor Benny Tai get out from prison because they are unjustly detained for a long time. And I don't know whether, the Hong Kong situation is as similar as Tibet, but it is some sort of a genocide as well. When they detained the people, when we see in 2019, there were a few people who were suddenly fell from a high building, and there's no evidence why they just fell, right? Things are quite strange, and also, I guess the point I want to make is Hong Kongers, they believe in the so-called one country, two systems model for a long time until probably in 2014 when we had the umbrella movement, and in 2019 when we had the fight for democracy movement. And then things did look okay because things got totally went out of whack. How do we connect with Tibetans, especially because I believe at the Parkdale area we have a large community with Tibetans and people from Hong Kong. They are in exile in all parts of the world. It's quite similar to what happened in 1959, 60 years later, the Hong Kong situation. There are some similarities, definitely. Also, there are some dissimilarities as well. I guess within the Hong Kong community, it's quite mixed. Some people are, when they live inside of Hong Kong, of course they are suppressed, and then you don't see a free media anymore. And then people are just kept to shut up. And then the exile door is still open. People can still leave, but after July 1st, I don't know whether this situation remains the same, whether the capital can leave easily. Now, things do happen in Ukraine and Russia, and with CCP's involvement with alleged being a strategic alliance with Russia, would Hong Kong banks in general got sanctioned? Would the SWIFT be not in use, so to speak? Because that's a decision not made by you and me, but within the forming members of the SWIFT system. So anyways, it's complicated to see the fate of the 7.5 million people living in Hong Kong. And there's one study that was done recently by boutique research firm in Ireland. They say 80% of Hong Kongers, they want to leave Hong Kong. 80%, 80. That's a huge figure. So I guess, do we have some sort of a genocide, just like what happened in Tibet in 1959, that I heard a lot of stories that 1.2 million people got killed during that period of time, and then we lost the culture, the language. Yes, I think we as Hong Kongers probably we will lose our Cantonese and also the traditional Chinese if we don't fight back. And we condemn the CCP for misleading us in believing that the one country, two systems is still intact. In less than 6 weeks, we will be in the second phase of the so-called one country, two systems, which really doesn't exist. So how do we fight back? Is it forming a government in exile? I don't know at this point in time, but I think it is very important to at least raise the concern, and then we have to make ourselves very loud and let the whole world know that Hong Kongers, we stand with Tibetans, with the people in Ukraine, and we do fight for justice. And it's important then let other people think that Hong Kong is still like a great international city, which is not. Hong Kong has lost its glory since 2020, July 1st. But we have to, as Hong Kongers who are in all parts of the world, we have to keep the Hong Kong spirit alive, and also we have to fight for justice, and we have to unite with people who fight for freedom and justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Next, I have Winnie, the president of the Toronto Association for Democracy in China.
Welcome to Toronto. Yeah. And thank you for welcoming us to the center. I actually lived in the riding with Parkdale and Hyde Park. So I've been helping Botila Kapuchi, our first Tibetan Canadian member of provincial parliament. So I will just stick to my 5 minutes presentations. I'll first introduce a bit about Toronto Association for Democracy in China, and then bring it back to the Canadian context. Okay? The Toronto Association for Democracy in China is a community-based human rights organization that was founded back in May 1989 at the height of the Beijing students' occupation of the Tiananmen Square. And to me, I think that's part of the first world occupations. And then on the eve of June 4th, after Canadians watched what took place on Tiananmen Square, we had a march, a protest march, the very next day with over 30,000 people marching from Grange Park all the way to the Chinese consulate. And since then, our work has been constantly in 3 areas. One is against the erasing and the forgetting of the June 4th history and what took place when Chinese Communist Party and its current regime try so hard to suppress and silence dissent. So 2 years right after the June 4th massacre, we did a lot of work in working with the university students here in Toronto. So we we rallied and got a June 4th memorial plaque at U of T, Goddess of Democracy at York University, and then in 2018 to commemorate the tragic death of Liu Xiaobo, the Nobel Peace Laureate. We commissioned the empty chair memorial, and now it sits in the front lawn of Amnesty International Canada in Ottawa. So that's part of our legacy. I should just keep saying that this year on June 4th, which is on a Saturday coming up, we'll be working in conjunction with Sheng Xue, the Federations for Democracy China, to organize our annual protest in front of the Chinese consulate, and then doing a candlelight vigil at the Hart House U of T campus. So we are hoping you could all come. What we are also commemorating is, as Ed has said earlier, in what happened in 2019 and the passing of the national security law in Hong Kong, the banning of the candlelight vigil in Hong Kong has taken place. It's now this year will be the 3rd year. So we vowed to keep the candle burning, and everywhere will be Victoria Park across the globe. And I think that reflects on the essence of what President have said earlier about the need for a coordinated and organized, but more importantly also the solidarity among all of us across the globe. And the other piece that we've been doing is also working in solidarity with Uyghurs and Tibetan groups and in different rallies, such as the boycott for the Olympic Games, boycott of the Winter Games, and so on and so forth. It's to make sure that, solidarity building, relationship building doesn't happen just because of one march. It needs time, it needs years of building, and that trust needs to be built among all of us when we share the common enemy of the current Chinese totalitarian government. And then since 2019, our group has also, after witnessing that the version 2 of Tiananmen Square massacre has actually taken place in Hong Kong, we have started the support work, resettlement work of some of the former Hong Kong protesters into Canada, supporting them in applying for refugee claimant status and all that. So those are some, and then the other piece that we've been doing is the lobbying, and which is why I want to get into the next piece. It's TADC, it's a political organization, but we are a non-partisan organization. And that when you see what has happened at the Canadian political landscape, things have, there's no doubt that after the arrest of Meng Wanzhou and then the retaliations of the arrest of the 2 Michaels and so on and so forth, the relationship between Canada and China has been on the decline. It's damaged, but at the same time, I think we also need to be cognizant that Canada and China's trade, there's a $57 billion trade deficit. That means Canada import a whole lot more from China than we export. And so it's in that regard, I believe the current Liberal government is now trying to extend and rebuild, quote unquote, the relationship with the Chinese government, despite our protests. So in that sense, I think we need to be a whole lot more vigilant. How do we make sure we put human rights first before trade? When Canada and China's trade is only around 4% of the total trade agreements. And I think we also need to be cognizant that just to share the information. There's that in Canada, 3 out of 5 Canadians actually want less trade with China. And that's from the Angus Reid poll research back in January this year. So we are saying, you know, how do we tap on this and see that as an opportunity to turn things around? How do we work together to be vigilant on our government, on our MPs? And then if we take a look at the upcoming provincial Ontario elections on June 2nd, if you take a look at some of the candidates, most of the candidates from the Liberal and the Conservative MPP candidates, most of them are linked with pro-Beijing, pro-business background. And so how do we make sure that we are going to be, we as Canadians here, elect people that will speak on human rights, that will speak on justice and peace, as the President has said, and how do we make sure that our path for going forward, it's going to be, you know, when we are saying, you know, solidarity is about coming together in one hand so we can have a fist to punch. How do we make sure that comes together? And this is what we could continue to have a conversation. So thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Winnie. Next, I call upon Columbus Leo on behalf of the World United Farmers for Independence.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me here today. Thank you, Sheng Xue, for helping to organize, and it's an honor to be in attendance with the Sikyong, Mr. Penpa Tsering, and also thank you for the President, Kalsan and other organizers, and I'm so happy to be in this Tibetan Center again, and I have seen actually quite a few people in the various rallies before, because we have been trying to work with each other in the many causes together. Well, my name is Columbus Leo, Luo Yisi, from Taiwan, and I'm not Chinese. I'm with the organization World United Promotions for Independence, Taiwan 独立建国联盟. We hear the word in exile, and happy to understand that the Tibetans have a very good structure of government in exile, and yet encouraging others to try to form something similar. While the Taiwanese people have certainly also been in exile, and I'm talking about the overseas Taiwanese people, because I myself, after coming from Taiwan to Canada, learned the value of democracy, social justice. As a young person in Canada, I felt, hey, it would be good to try to push that toward Taiwan when Taiwan was under the oppressive Kuomintang regime. So I became blacklisted, banned from going to Taiwan. But many of us still continue in the struggle, so I did go back to Taiwan. I was arrested, tear gassed, beaten up, deported. And I went back again, and again was arrested, beaten up by police, and imprisoned. So I am also a former political prisoner. And I can certainly understand the struggles of many other people, because Taiwanese people have certainly been in a long struggle, and many people have sacrificed so much, so that Taiwan has now eventually achieved fragile democracy and independence. However, even though it's a vibrant democracy, China is constantly threatened to attack Taiwan, and Taiwan has willing collaborators within. Just like today, when Russia is attacking Ukraine, they are willing collaborators within Ukraine. Some, not all of those with Russian background, are helping Russia in their attack and killing of Ukrainians. Or just like when Nazis or Hitler wanted to annex Austria, they were willing collaborators in Austria. So Taiwan is facing both the threat from Communist China's invasion and daily threat of the military airplanes right by the neutral zone, and those willing collaborators within Taiwan. We are all watching the Russian attack of Ukraine now, and we try to support them as much as possible. Someone was just asking me the mask I was wearing, a Ukrainian flag mask, or like my friend Edward Chung is wearing this. While we are watching what's happening in Ukraine, we also hear that Communist China is standing in solidarity with Russia. The world, many countries are trying to sanction Russia. And so a lot of Russian companies and assets are becoming toxic. On the other hand, China is watching and learning carefully and is ready to buy up those toxic assets dirt cheap. China is also helping Russia in many ways, and Russia is going to become very poor and will be indebted to China for a long time. I think that's something a lot of people are actually missing out on what is happening today. Russia is attacking Ukraine, and China is getting itself ready to attack Taiwan and probably other neighbors in the region. China, compared to Russia, China has 10 times the people, the firepower, the economy, and so on. So China is actually a much bigger bully and much bigger threat to the world. So while the people are watching what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, what we are watching carefully what China might do. And in the past, as a Taiwanese activist trying to help to promote and support Taiwan's democracy and independence, in the international front, we often hear people saying, oh, Taiwan and China, you have some conflict. You work it out. You work it out, and we will support you. What we have seen in the situation of Russia and Ukraine, that is unfair to tell them, hey, you two work it out, and we'll support you. It doesn't work. So I think people are beginning to understand it was kind of unfair to ask Taiwan to say, oh, you work it out, be friend, or come to some peace agreement with China, then we will support you. It doesn't work. We've seen what happened in Hong Kong with the so-called one country, two system. Communist China does not abide by their own words or their own laws. And so we have a new world order that is in a tumultuous situation. It's changing fast, and parts of it is moving in directions we don't like. All of us don't like. Now, thank you, Sheng Xue, for inviting many of us activists to come here. And we know Sheng Xue is like a rock among the Chinese democracy community here in Toronto. And Winnie, we just heard, we also have seen her in action, and her friends, her group of people. I hope to get to know the Uyghur community better. I'll be going to Ottawa and will be meeting Mohammed Toti soon. And I have been in Washington, D.C. and remember meeting Lodi Gary before. And today is not just us talking, it's about us continuing to make connections. Because in the future, we are still going to have many rallies. Who do we contact? And so I hope we also continue to make contacts. Make sure we keep each other's emails, phone numbers, or other things from today's meeting. and continue to work forward. And lastly, when you talk about government in exile or organizations overseas trying to work together, fortunately, Taiwan has achieved this fragile democracy nowadays. But before that, fortunately, overseas, we did have Taiwanese organizations that try to work together. WUFI, Canada, has networked with WUFI in US, in Europe, Japan, and so on. There's the more cultural organization of Taiwanese Canadian Association of Toronto, which is part of the National TCA and part of the World Federation of Taiwanese Association, which yearly conferences and tours. And nowadays, we can finally go back to Taiwan without the fear of being arrested, beaten up by police. There are new changes in Taiwan's government. It's still difficult. They are encountering a lot of resistance from the old guards, but fortunately, it's getting much better. But among the Taiwanese, we did have a World Taiwanese Congress, and I'd like to present a flag of the World Taiwanese Congress to Mr. Tsering, and plus a jade pen of Taiwan made by a former political prisoner in Taiwan. So the jade. Oh, okay, thank you. Upright. Jade pen made by former political prisoner. World Taiwanese Congress. We can hold it up. So it's not the Kuomintang's or Republic of China flag, it's World Taiwanese Congress flag.
Thank you, Columbus. Next, Edward Ching, President of the FAPA Canada.
Thank you, Sheng Xue, for this opportunity. Thank you. I'm honored to meet you. Yeah, my name is Edward Chung. Yeah, I'm the current president of Formosan Association for Public Affairs in Canada. Yeah, this is the organization to, lobby or promote Taiwan democracy. Yeah, so yeah, it's good. When you move to Canada, you know all the benefit of democracy. So. Yeah, in the early days in Taiwan, still under the KMT, Kuomintang rule, in that time, the Kuomintang and the Communist Party in China, it's the same. They are the same. They are sisters, they are brothers, they are cousins. So all the way we have endured into the last time, now it's what happened in China, in Hong Kong, in East Turkistan, in Tibet. So we are suffering, at the same, a bad guy over there. So we are suffering together. So we have experienced those suffering. So just as you say, we have to work together in exile, especially to form what the benefit of democracy can do. So we like to urge everyone, looking for democracy in our own country, and then we work together. So this is a good opportunity. Thank you for everyone join us here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Edward. Next, I have Hugh, the Executive Chairman of the Canadian Committee of China Democracy Party.
Thank you coming. Hello. Yeah. Thanks. I got the opportunity to welcome Mr. Penpa. Yes. Thank you. So I represent Democratic Party in China in Canada community. This party formed actually in 1989 by students from Tiananmen Square and all Democratic people in China. Since we cannot do anything in China, we just extend our party outside China. So that's our organization. I think in China, for Chinese people, we always have this very conflict. We call it's kind of a communist party culture. It's not the Chinese traditional culture. We don't think whatever the culture in mainland China is traditional Chinese culture. So we always have this question, separatism, right? People. We talk about Tibet, we talk about China, we talk about mainland China, we talk about Taiwan. All the people think the human beings, they have the right, the human right, to be titled as separatism, right? So that's a very, very good question, actually very good propaganda for Chinese people, even for a lot of people that left China, that living in Canada, to be Canadian. I think the civilization after Civil War, the most important progress in civilization is the declaration, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So the question is, which one? We talk about country sovereignty. We talk about the human right, 人权和主权, a country's sovereignty. Which one is big? Which one is important? Which one is most important? Right? I think the most progress after the Second War is we know the human right is more important than a sovereign countries. 就是说呢，人权呢是一定大于主权的。为什么这么讲呢？ We know the Second World War, right? Jewish, right? Germans killed many Jewish. What? Because that's 主权, this country's 主权, so we can kill. Nobody can talk, nobody can see. It's not right. Even see right, you cannot stop us. Same as China too, right? So all always mess up the thing, the 主权是大于人权的，主权是大于人。Country's sovereignty is important than the human right. So, based on that one, we see Q. The Q is be reasoned, be titled under the law. So that's give me the question. That's why we see the in China all the CCP always give people identity, political identity, culture identity, even the local identity. They use these kind of things to play to see that's glory, national glory or whatever. Even we see Russia and Ukraine, the war. What's glory? A lot of people but kill. Human beings be killed because one guy, the Putin, think we put the country's bird here and there's important. That human beings glory. So that's so ridiculous, right? So I think whatever China or Chinese people, mainland Chinese people, they still think there's country's sovereignty, 国家主权, is more important than human being. I don't think that's called civilized people, civilized country. That's still what we call 原始. That's be rude. That's not what we human being want to be, right? You see the country, we can see the Canada, we can see the USA. All these countries, a lot of nation there, a lot of culture there. It's no fight, no conflict. Every people, so the peaceful to deal with each other. It's no war. But that kind of things, 主权, human right, right? 人权，在这个区分上搞不清楚的人呢，搞不清楚的国家呢，那还是个荒蛮原始的，没有文明的国家。Thank you.
Thank you, Hugh. Next, we have Joseph Xie, the former Chinese political prisoner, board member of the Federation for a Democratic China, and the deputy mayor of Cremona, Alberta, Canada.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph. I come from Alberta, a small town. I was elected as a municipal councilor and now a deputy mayor of that community. Before I come to Canada, I don't know democracy. I don't know, how democracy works. So Mr. President just mentioned that when you invite Chinese, you don't know which group you should invite, and you don't know, you cannot invite this one, ignore the other one. That's a problem for Chinese people. When we come fight for democracy, it look like we all fight for democracy. But when we try to form a group, we always try to lead, me lead, not you. So that's a problem. Today I come here with, I don't know, this is a good idea or no. My idea a year ago already. I think now the collapse of a communist regime is inevitable. It's sooner or later. And we have to work together to push that, to make that happen faster. And all the groups, all the stakeholders in that region, in East Asia, we should work together to form maybe a group to collaborate to do it together. And how? When we Chinese just do that alone, we can't achieve that because we all fight for leadership role. And I think if all the East Asian stakeholders come together, we join to form another group with called Peace and Constitutionalism of East Asia, maybe could be such a name. We can set up rules. The Chinese people, when we fight for democracy, we always ignore the rules. We always don't want to follow the rule. I'm more important than you. It should be me speak, not you. So then nobody can do anything. It's just fight, never end. So now I want to propose for all the people all the groups in this room, we should work together. Maybe we form a group. It's called temporarily. My idea is called Peace and Constitutionalism for East Asia. So this one, we can avoid the difference of separatism or unification, all those things. We just all work for the same goal, for the well-being of that huge continent, for all those people to enjoy human rights, to enjoy democracy, to enjoy civilization progress. I think we should do that. I don't know whether Mr. President can hear this message. Maybe you can lead such a group, and it's difficult to decide which Chinese we invite. It's okay. We have a rule over there. You follow the rules, we join together. You don't follow the rule, you want to lead, you lead your own group. We, as a large group of people, work for the whole continent, the East Asia, to achieve human rights, to achieve maybe autonomy, real autonomy, and the real freedom for each ethnic groups. That's my idea. I come here just for this. Thank you.
All right. Thanks all the presidents and the representative of the different organizations that had the opportunity to present your organizations. Next, I'll open the floor for any questions and answers for Sekyung.
下面是问答环节，如果有问题，或者是你只是想做一个简单的一个陈述也可以，但是呢，请不要超过2分钟。好。
Hello. Thank you, Your Excellency, for holding this audience. Assuming the audience at home did not attend the full conference and they're just watching this particular segment, could you share your wisdom with us on 2 important issues? The first issue is, how would you describe the current status of the freedom and democracy movement against the CCP? Would you say that the movement is backsliding? Or would you say that the movement is stagnant? Or would you say that the movement is actually winning? That is the first issue. The second issue is, from now on and for the next 12 months, for example, if you were to set goals, what would be the minimum achievement that would make you happy? What would be the target achievement that would make you very happy? And what would be an outrageous achievement that would make you very, very happy with the progress? Thank you, Your Excellency.
The questions are all emotion-based, so all I can say is that with respect to the Chinese democracy movement led by the Chinese people, particularly those who came out of China after Tiananmen Square, I don't find the uniting factor that you used to have, the vibrancy that you used to have, the energy that you used to have. For me, it looks quite fractured now. So I think it's time that we come together. First, the Chinese people have to come together. Deputy Mayor here talked about Chinese mentality. If you want democracy inside China, first you practice democracy in exile. Without experience of democracy outside, you cannot transport that to inside China. Now, someone else also mentioned that what is more important, human rights, peace, happiness for people, or sovereignty of nations. Even if you are sovereign, if the people are suffering, what is the use? So the pro-democracy leaders have to have more sense to come together to strengthen the democracy movement, not go on the wrong side of downsliding. That I think is very important. There's something that will make us all very happy. I think if China breaks up like Soviet Union, it's going to be very difficult for everybody. Nobody wants anarchy in China. That will bring a lot of problem for everybody, for Chinese and all people around. What would be best is for the Chinese leaders to introduce democracy slowly. That will be beneficial for everybody. A slow, gradual change towards democracy. That will be good for everybody. Otherwise, if there is a dramatic change, who knows whether it will be a military rule after Communist Party or a total anarchy. Nobody knows. Or military rule will be better than Communist Party. That also we don't know. So best thing is for China to become democratic. Eventually, maybe not so drastic, but that has to come from the leadership also. And the pressure also has to come from the people. But unfortunately, even in this century, there is no free flow of information in China. Chinese leaders think that because communism is based on lies, built on lies, it cannot survive. But they're still trying. One message for the domestic consumption, one message for the international community. Now, with the Russian invasion, everybody knows what is happening inside China. What the Chinese government is allowing onto the social media to come out. What is bad. To allow only those views which the Chinese government wants it to be known to the Chinese community. And what they are saying in China and what they are telling the international community are two different things. So everybody knows China has two faces. They should be more genuine. If the Chinese rulers are really concerned, they should take more care of their people, not suppress them all the time. There should be more free flow of information. These are first steps towards democracy. We have one friend here who was a former judge from China. Now he has been persecuted because in the name of misusing state power. So anything that does not go in their favor, they don't agree. Even international law, if it is in their favor, they accept. If it is not in their favor, they totally disregard it. I think Deputy Mayor made a very good reflection of Chinese mentality. If you want to practice democracy, you have to follow rule of law. Without rule of law, there cannot be democracy. So how much ever you profess democracy, you just don't talk democracy. You also walk democracy. That is more important. So what will make me very happy, for all Chinese to come together, for all democracy activists to come together and then put pressure on the Chinese government. Then Chinese, Tibetans, Uyghurs, everybody can work together. Because issues are different. For Chinese people, issue is different. For Hong Kongers, issue is different. For Tibetans, we have a historical background. Uyghurs have a different historical background. But the common enemy is CCP. So all of us to come together. First, the Chinese has to unite themselves amongst the Chinese people.
I want to ask Mr. President one specific question. Are you willing to lead a group inclusively to Uyghurs, to Tibetans, to Mongolians, to all Chinese, lead such a group like as a platform to dialogue or work out convention or agreement in the future after the communist regime collapse? We can work toward peace, so not bloodshed. I think after the communist regime collapse, China might incur bloodshedding. So can we avoid that by working together? Are you willing to lead such a group to work towards that?
I think there has to be, for any kind of leadership, there has to be consensus. It cannot be said, oh, Tibetans will lead this, or Chinese will lead this, or Uyghurs will lead this. There has to be a common agreement among everybody. And it's between so many different people, so it has to be an alliance of leaders, not just one leader.
Yeah,
because
we can come together.
Yeah, and that cannot come out just through one meeting. There has to be several rounds of meetings to discuss what is best for everybody. There should be representative of leaders from different communities to come together, including from Hong Kong. So we have to look at possibilities. But I cannot guarantee for sure that we will take it, because if we say, okay, we will take the lead, some others may not like it. So there has to be equal representation of everybody for such an alliance to work together.
So this will be the last question.
Thank you. So firstly, I do appreciate Ms. Sheng Xue and your honor, your excellency, for this meeting. Our Assembly of Citizens, as a brand new organization just formed 2020, are mostly young adults, first voters, teenagers and students. So in this condition, we do realize that we need more experience, resources, etc. So I want to ask Your Excellency, do you have any suggestion for such a new brand organization just formed, like for experience and resources? On the other hand, I also want to ask, what's your opinion about forming a solidarity government as one frontier against Communist Party? Thank you.
I think the first question is very similar to what was asked before. So there has to be, maybe the next step is to get leaders from Hong Kong, from Taiwan, from Uyghur, from Tibet, and everybody together, these leaders, and see whether we can find common ground to face common challenges. If that is there, then if the leaders agree, then amongst the leaders, we can again elect leadership. So it cannot be imposed on anybody. And then on the other issue, it's quite difficult to say, because as I mentioned, what are the main interests for Hong Kong people? Because Hong Kongers are looking for freedom, maybe some for independence also. So there may be different groups within the Hong Kong group, because I met some in Ottawa, I met some in Italy. They all have different ideas, so I don't know, because everybody, Tibetans have a historical background, Uyghurs have a historical background. We are more, for Tibetans, now the question is more about whether we will be able to maintain our identity or not. So depending on different situations, it will be difficult to form just one alternative government, because we all have to agree. First, within the Chinese itself, they are not able to agree. So how can we have a united, one exiled government of all the people together? First, let us try to build the consensus. Let us discuss more about possibilities. Set some timelines, have some meetings. We will be happy to host a meeting if you all want. But we will have to take step by step. Nothing can happen overnight. It has to be a process, and that process also has to be in agreement by all the groups. You cannot force one group to join that group. It doesn't work. So from the very beginning, if there is a good consensus, then it sets a stepping stone for future activities. But at least from my perspective, what we can say is we all can come together for one major event annually in one big city to put pressure on the Chinese Communist government. These things are possible. But to have an organized structure of all the group together, that will take time. And a process has to be set in motion before any action is taken.
Thank you so much. So with this, I'll conclude today's gathering here, and on behalf of everyone here, thank Sikong, Mr. Penpa Tsering for sharing his thoughts and within this busy schedule, giving us time to interact with everyone here, and Sheng Xue for organizing and bringing all our friends here at the center. After this, we'll have photo session, group photo together, and then little informal interactions among different people. Thank you. Yeah, everyone will sit, and then Signo and the guests will sit at the front, and then we'll take a photo this way.
格桑彭措先生刚刚他已经宣布，今天我们的会议就到这儿，因为之前是我们晚了一点点但是因为他们接下来还有其他的议程，那现在呢是请思政先生跟我们大家照个合影，然后我们大家可以自由交流一会儿，我们基本上今天的会议就到这里了。
Maybe step on the chair. If you're on the last row, maybe step on the chair. 因为有的后面的人看不到。
Oh yeah.
Instead of many people going up, one person up is better.
That's okay. I don't want it.
I cannot see the lady in the back.
Okay. You making
Almost.
movie or taking picture?
Almost. I'm making movies. It's too wide. I cannot take a side. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
일단 어디
你未走先？
没啊，因为这反正是一个我的，哦，sorry。
哦，it's okay。
台湾。
嗯